Do you ever get that strange, tingly feeling at the back of your neck when you know something wonderful has happened, but you don't know what yet? It's almost like the little hairs that live there get the good news and have a full-blown party before telling the rest of your head. Truly an invigorating sensation, and one I get to welcome all too infrequently. But on this particular Red Mountain morning, the little dancing neck hairs were having a rip-roaring old time, and soon I found out why. My old friend Vivek had just outlawed the Nerevarine prophecy entirely. Oh, joyous day, happy day! Here I thought my bitter old compatriot would be all set to help each and every incarnation from lowly ship to mountain tip on their journey to the heart of Lorcan, but to my merry surprise it looked as though the old tribunal was finally coming around to my point of view. Now, instead of having the entire weight of the land's triumvirate theocracy at their beck and call, the poor Nerevarine was going to have to fight a whole host of ordinators, several archcanons, and an entire galvanized population of adulators before even reaching the ghost fence. How absolutely silly Nerevar was going to look, and what a wondrous reversal of fortune for me. Up until that point, I had dreaded the thought that the false gods might just give Nerevar an entire army and absolutely destroy my little movement before it could even get off the ground. But now I knew for a fact they loved me. They really, really loved me. It was lovely. I was charmed. I would even dare to call it darling. In my newfound state of ease, I immediately booked the entire rest of mid-year off and took a nice long cruise around the Sea of Ghosts. It was truly a well-deserved break, and couldn't have come a moment sooner. The work on Akula Khan was just about finished, and I knew we could always add the finishing touches when the prophecy was finally disproved. Ah, the relief. Sujama on the rocks each morning, soothing pickled salt rice mud baths below deck. And in the evening a fine Dunmerry ragtime band would play Ragnar the Red Midship. The parties were the most fanciful a Dunmer could ever hope for on a battered old seaworthy vessel, and the sight of the glorious northern shores brought tears of wonder to my eyes. It was all turning up dandy for old Dagoth. Or so I thought. For you see, on the 10th day of that fateful cruise, we finally came back into port. I had just woken up after a bender. Apparently I'd gotten so drunk I'd been put in the brig with some old fool who kept yelling for me to wake up, wake up. I simply shouted for him to shut up, and staggered my way above deck into the blinding post-hangover sun of my blighted homeland. But as I did, the hairs on the back of my neck once again began to rise, this time not out of excitement, oh no, but a terrible dread. I tried to brush it off as the post-binge woozies, tried to convince myself that it was in fact another good omen, and that the little hairs were just confused. But then it dawned on me where I was. We had made port, that was undeniable, but not just any port, a very familiar port to anyone who'd ever set sail in Morrowind, the unmistakably mongrel thatch of the imperial huts, the sorry excuse of a stone brick lighthouse. There was no doubt about it. We had made anchor in Sedanine. I rushed past the guard on the dock and threw the doors of the census office wide open. Surely they would understand there had been some kind of mistake. Surely they would recognize that I was in fact not an outlander, but Dagoth of the 6th House and the tribe unmourned. But as I was about to cry out my case, an old Breton swiveled about in his creaky stool, hands clutched together and scowling with indignation. As his furrowed gaze met mine, all hope I held finally faded, as the only words he could spare for me were, "Ah, yes, we've been expecting you." Trying to convince him that I had incarnated from the heart of a god and therefore only technically had no parents wasn't getting me anywhere. And having lived so many eons, I couldn't actually be certain of my birth sign either. As I filled out the census forms, I balefully resigned myself to setting out on adventure as a prospective Nerevarine. Well played, Vivek. Well played. It didn't matter that I could just levitate my way back to Red Mountain. It didn't even matter that I was a god. They'd made me look positively silly, and now I was going to have to find some way to settle the score. I thought of launching Netch Jelly at the Ministry of Truth. I considered letting a jar of torchbugs loose at the High Fane. But no, anything short of giving Akula Khan a massive dongus was just going to be seen as weak. And so giant stone golem dongus it was going to have to be. We'll see who's laughing when my Numidium humps its merry way through the cantons.